EnglishTim here. Today I'm doing part 1 of my video, which is showing the differences between the solar game and the lunar game for King of Avalon. They've been running the solar game for just over a year and lunar's been around 5 years. What's the difference? Which one are you on currently? Which one should you switch to? These are all things you might want to think about. So watch now on my video on the differences. Today I'm doing a review on the two main versions of the King of Avalon game. There's Solar and there's Lunar. So if you've heard about them both and you know loads about them already, then that's great. How are they linked? How are they different? Out of interest, the Solar version of the game, this is the one at the bottom. This one has been running for about a year, so now the Lunar version has been going 5 years. This is the one that's the sort of most players are still on. However, for the past year, all new players have been put onto a Solar server by default. So unless you specifically asked to go on to Lunar, they would have put you on Solar. So if you're a new player, been with us for a year or so, or less than a year, almost certain that you're on a Solar kingdom. So let's have a look. Superficially, the artwork is exactly the same, so the graphics for the city are identical. So actually that part of the game is the same. The actual battle mechanics look very similar. However, there are loads and loads of little differences and some that really add up to make huge differences. So first up, the two games are not actually technically linked within the realms. So if you go to the world map, for example, this will take you to the solar map and you won't see any lunar kingdoms here at all, and in Lunar it won't show you any solar kingdoms. Now you can look at the other ones, so they are available. If you go to the top right, you have the distant lands, which will take you to the other version, so you can see the other version. However, I say they are not linked. You will never have a matchup with a solar kingdom if you're in a lunar kingdom and vice versa. One of the key reasons why that's the case is they're completely different games. The battle statistics are completely different. So out of interest, my war stats, I am comparing a 42 to a stronghold level 32, I do admit that, and it's a much newer account. However, it doesn't change the fact that these stats are just inherently different. So if I show you on Lunar, my stats here are just touching 1k, and on the other one they are at 12k, and if I took on the most powerful player in the game, then I would be seeing 30k plus stats on the right here, and if I took on the most powerful players I've come against in the Solar version of the game, these would be about 3,000 versus 30 plus thousand. So the stats are 10 times higher in the Lunar version of the game than the Solar. So you'll never be able to fight the two. They are just completely separate entities as we currently speak. They just could not have a fair fight. It's actually fine if they don't meet, because it doesn't matter if your stats say 20 and everyone else is 10. If it's basically the same, if your stats are 2,000 and everyone else is 1,000, it's the same ratio, so it doesn't actually matter the numbers. It's just really important if they ever do meet, those numbers are critical. Now the other thing you may have noticed is at the top right of the screen, in the Solar version of the game, I have very little going on up here, and I've got loads going on in Lunar. That is the case just generally. Solar has far fewer events than Lunar. Lunar has so much going on. A typical day will have 4 or 5 events simultaneously, and on Solar some days there might not actually even be an event. So I think they've got too few events in Solar, potentially slightly too many in Lunar. For people who are certainly not playing all day long, it's a lot to keep up with all these different events. Now you've also got a lot of the gear will look the same, but it behaves completely differently. So for example, armor in the armory, you do have similar types of kit. You'll see it's got Ice Lord, it's got Flamebringer, but it stops currently at Flamebringer. They are bringing in the higher levels, so Flamebringer is here. However, the stats for the two, 87.5% for infantry attack and 60% for troop defense, these are just completely different. And the bonus benefits, these ones are in fact the same for the bonus benefits, except there's way more in Lunar. And there's, for example, no siege benefits on the bonus Smith's Mark in the solar version of the game, but as most of you probably worked out, siege is not particularly helpful anymore, so not having stats for it's not a problem. But that's it, that's the top, and this one will keep going. So they will keep growing this, and the other difference is all of these tiers of gear, they are very much systematic. You get one and use that one to upgrade to the next one. In the solar version of the game, it has become that way in the lunar version of the game, but it didn't used to be that way. You can see here that you needed ingots, you didn't need the previous item to get destruction gear. Same for Imperium. It's now become the case that you need the lower level gear to get the higher level gear, so you can't skip now, but that's new to Lunar, that's always been the case in Solar. However, why are the stats so much lower? Well, there's a heck of a lot fewer of them. For example, here I have the Avalon's artifacts in this statue in the middle. This version of the game in Solar, nothing at all. Prestige in buildings, there's nothing here, whereas in the Solar version of the game I have the ability to boost stats on a variety of different buildings. I also have statues here which give more stats, so these can upgrade, and again, just doesn't exist in Solar. So it's a lot fewer different things to upgrade. Another big one is the War College. You have Tomes of War in the Lunar version of the game, which sort of enhance your battle abilities, whereas there's just no equivalent in the Solar version of the game. So no Tomes of War at all. Now the other thing about armor is the special skills. There's some unusual armor, which in my opinion probably shouldn't be classed as armor. Makes it so you can get hold of certain skills that are really helpful. However, those skills do require you to take off your good quality fighting armor, which is a bit frustrating. But things like wounded conversion, you can get that using a warmonger ring, so even very low level gear still has its place later on in the game. And the winged helm of rage, for example, has benefits to healing speed 45%, and you can get a training cost reduction with the ring of dispel. There's just no equivalent in the Solar version of the game. I can show you the same rings, in fact, and there we go. Let's bring this one up. It has an army damage boost, but it has none of the properties here. It doesn't have wounded conversion, which is the really big ticket item. And as I say, there's no replacement. I think it would be better not being on armor. It should be on a different item having these skills. However, in Solar they don't have it, which means you lose a lot more troops, and it's much more expensive to heal them as well. So that's a really major change. Heroes are completely different, so their skills... There are a lot fewer of the heroes available currently in the Solar version of the game. They are bringing out more as time passes, and I don't have access to the lower ones, but you'll see the latest ones. We now have Dindrain and Brutus, and Dindrain and Brutus have been around a long time in this version of the game. But their skills are very different. So in Solar it will increase the attack by 3,100 and lock on enemy infantry, whereas this one it's a chance to receive Undying Glory, increasing the attack and striking the infantry first. Slightly different versions of the same thing, I don't know. However, yeah, these heroes are definitely very different to improve on as well. They have resonances for every single hero has a resonance in this version of the game. So in the Solar version of the game you'll have this resonance available. It's not generally available in the Lunar version of the game. It's actually very new. Only the newest heroes have resonance. And the Hero Council has a very different setup as well. So if we go to the heroes and the hero, you go to appoint heroes. These two heroes at the bottom can be resource heroes or fighting heroes. That's just not the case in this version of the game. You only have fighting heroes in these two slots. It means you don't need to keep changing them, which is annoying when you fight. You have to keep switching out loads of things. It's a massively simplified version of the game. Solar has just taken away a lot of the complexity, make it easier for beginners, but it also hasn't got the same intricacies, I suppose you could say. That it doesn't benefit really experienced players having that little extra skill to know when to switch gear, what extra things they can get to boost. It's a lot less of that in this version of the game. Now the bottom left, you do have to switch here, but not for fighting. It's switching only for different resource skills. So you have a production hero and a gathering hero, rather than having people who mix and match. And then you've got heroes with other unusual skills as well. So this bottom left hero is the only one you really need to switch regularly, unless you have heroes here who have specific skills. So it's a lot less switching and the like, so I do prefer the solar version for that. Now the Hero Council Covenant, it's much more complicated in Lunar, but you have more types of hero that you can use to match, but that's because there are more heroes. Now in the solar version of the game, it's actually very easy to activate them all. It's impossible, I think, now to activate every single one of these, so you just need to pick and choose your favourite. So I am EnglishTim, thank you for watching my video. That's part 1 of the differences between Solar and Lunar. Join me in part 2 for the continuing story on all the different changes that you'll see between the two different versions of the game. If you're enjoying my content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell to receive updates about my future videos. Click that like button, otherwise you can check out some of my other content. I've got my ultimate fighting guide that tells you how to set up your hero council to fight, how to send what troops, and other effective means of improving your battle strategies. And I've got lots of how-tos on both versions of the game. So I look forward to you joining me on my next video.